Cari, year 53 before the Common Era. Marcus Licinius Crassus, one of Rome's wealthiest men, led 7 legions into Mesopotamia with absolute confidence. The Parthians used mounted archers who could fire backwards while retreating the infamous Parthian shot. Roman infantry locked shields in testudo formation, but the Parthians just kept circling, firing endlessly. Here's what made it unbearable. The Parthians had camel trains loaded with arrows. Endless supply. Men stood under shields for hours in brutal heat. Water ran out. Some broke formation in desperation and were cut down instantly. Crassus's son led a cavalry charge. The Parthians feigned retreat, baited them into a trap, and slaughtered them. His head was mounted on a spear and paraded in front of Roman lines. By the end, roughly 20,000 Romans were dead, 10,000 captured. Crassus himself was killed during negotiations. Legend says the Parthians poured molten gold down his throat, mocking his greed. Cannae. If Cari taught Rome that distance could kill, Cannae taught them that brilliance could turn strength into a death sentence. In year 216, before the Common Era, Rome assembled its largest army ever, 80,000 men, to face Hannibal's 50,000 exhausted troops. Hannibal positioned his weakest troops in the center, strongest on the flanks. Romans charged the center. It gave ground slowly, bending like a bow. Romans believed they were winning, pushed harder, packed tighter. Then Hannibal's flanks wheeled inward. His cavalry crushed the Roman horsemen and charged the rear. The trap snapped shut. 80,000 Romans in a shrinking circle. Soldiers couldn't lift weapons. Men died standing up, held in place by corpses. Ancient sources claim 50,000 to 70,000 Romans died in one afternoon. That's Yankee Stadium's entire capacity, gone in a day. Verdun, February 1916. German Chief of Staff Erich von Falkenhayn had a disturbing strategy. Forget territorial gains, just bleed France until it collapses. His target? Verdun. Not because it was strategic, but because French pride wouldn't allow them to lose it. The opening bombardment. Over 2 million shells in the first week. The largest concentration of artillery fire in history at that point. Trees vaporized. Villages disappeared. The landscape became a cratered moonscape. The battle lasted 10 months. The same hills traded hands over and over. Soldiers rotated through what they called the Sacred Way, a single road that carried men in and carried bodies out. You'd survive your time in the meat grinder, get pulled back, then get sent back in weeks later. Shell shock was epidemic. Men went mad from constant bombardment. Some just walked into no man's land, catatonic, and were cut down. Bodies couldn't be recovered, so they became part of the trench walls, literally built into fortifications. By December 1916, roughly 700,000 men killed, wounded, or missing. The front lines barely moved. The Somme. While Verdun bled France, the Somme proved industrial-scale stupidity could destroy armies just as efficiently. July 1st, 1916. British commanders bombarded German lines for 7 days with 1.7 million shells, then ordered soldiers to walk across no man's land, carrying 60 pounds of equipment. The Germans had dug 30 feet underground. When shelling stopped, machine gunners climbed out and opened fire on neat rows of British soldiers walking toward them in daylight. First day, nearly 20,000 killed, 40,000 wounded. The worst day in British military history. The battle lasted 141 days. Soldiers lived in flooded trenches. Rats as big as cats fed on corpses. Wounded men lay in no man's land for days. Some drowned in shell craters filled with rainwater. The mud swallowed men whole. One soldier watched a friend sink into a crater, the suction so strong that pulling him out would have torn him apart. His screams lasted hours. By November, over 1 million casualties. The gain? 7 miles. Cost? 125,000 casualties per mile. Stalingrad. Summer 1942. Germany aimed to seize Stalingrad. Hitler wanted it partly for strategy, mostly because it was named after Stalin. Ego warfare at its finest. The Soviets had one order. Not one step back. They turned every building, every floor, every room into a fortress. The Germans called it Rattenkrieg, Rat War. Combat measured in stairwells, grenades through ceilings, snipers through walls. Enemies so close they heard each other breathing. Then winter hit. Soviet forces encircled 300,000 German troops. No food, no medicine, no way out. Temperatures hit negative 30 degrees Fahrenheit. Soldiers ate horses, then boiled leather and wallpaper glue. Field hospitals ran out of anesthesia amputations on fully conscious men. By January, soldiers died at 5,000 per day from hunger and cold. When surrender came in February 1943, fewer than 100,000 were taken prisoner. Of those, only 5,000 ever returned home. Soviet losses, 500,000 to over 1 million. Iwo Jima, February 1945. Iwo Jima was just 8 square miles of volcanic rock, but Japan had turned it into a fortress. 21,000 Japanese troops dug into caves, tunnels, and bunkers. The plan: make every inch cost American blood. The U.S. expected the island to fall in 5 days. It took 36. Japanese defenders emerged from hidden positions, attacked, then vanished back underground. Flamethrowers and grenades became the only way to clear positions. Some caves had multiple chambers. You'd think it was clear, then get ambushed from deeper inside. The fighting was so intense that one stretch of beach was later called the meat grinder. Marines advanced yard by yard under constant fire. Mount Suribachi became iconic when Marines raised the flag on its peak, but the battle was far from over. The worst fighting came after that photograph. Of the 21,000 Japanese defenders, only 216 were taken prisoner. The rest fought to the death. American casualties: nearly 7,000 killed, over 19,000 wounded. One island, 36 days, 26,000 American casualties. Okinawa. 3 months after Iwo Jima, the U.S. needed Okinawa, 340 miles from mainland Japan. Japan turned it into their last stand. Over 180,000 American troops landed on empty beaches. The Japanese had pulled into the interior, where naval bombardment was useless. What followed was 82 days of cave-to-cave warfare. Then the kamikazes: over 1,900 suicide attacks. 36 ships sunk. Japanese propaganda convinced civilians Americans would torture them. Families jumped off cliffs together. Parents killed their own children, then themselves. American soldiers witnessed mothers throwing babies off cliffs before jumping. Psychological warfare of the cruelest kind. By June, over 12,000 American troops were killed, 38,000 wounded. Japanese military deaths exceeded 100,000. Civilian deaths: 40,000 to 150,000. Okinawa's casualty rates directly influenced the decision to use atomic bombs. Chosin Reservoir, November 1950. The Korean War was supposed to be almost over. Then 120,000 Chinese troops crossed the border and launched a surprise attack. Temperatures plummeted to -30 degrees Fahrenheit, sometimes -40 degrees Fahrenheit at night. U.S. Marines and Army units found themselves surrounded, outnumbered 10 to 1. Weapons froze, machine guns jammed, morphine froze in syringes, sea rations froze solid. Frostbite accounted for more casualties than enemy fire in some units. Chinese forces attacked in human wave assaults at night, thousands charging through snow. U.S. forces fought a 78-mile fighting withdrawal, every mile contested. When a reporter asked if they were retreating, one Marine responded, "Retreat hell! We're just attacking in a different direction." The battle lasted 17 days. Approximately 17,000 U.S. casualties. Chinese losses: 30,000 to 60,000, many frozen to death. 8 battles, centuries apart. Same result: soldiers trapped in nightmares they couldn't escape. And these are just the ones we covered. If you want more history that doesn't sugarcoat the past, like this video and subscribe to the channel.